All right. Last transmission from the man cave for a week, I think. I'm gonna do this, and then I gotta pack up and hit it. Like I'm fishing for 6 days straight or something, I think. Tea. Drink tea. Had to go to the doctor, do some shit. Got some shit going on inside my body. So I gotta do some kind of cleansing shit. And then blood test and crap. But anyway, pain in the butt. Sarah's making me a whole bunch of lame-ass meals. It sucks, doesn't it? You know, when your health might potentially go sideways. And you look at all the people in the world who get to be absolutely obese, smoke their faces off all day, drink all day, go to Chinese food all the time. And they're still alive. Weird, isn't it? Weird. Then you stay healthy and something might be wrong with you. Oh well, whatever, we'll see what comes. Now, excuse me, a friend of mine came over yesterday. Quick note. It's tough, you know, I think a lot of people come here and they want to stay right on topic of these people running around the forest. But I'm sure everybody knows by now, I am all about zero bullshit and zero misleading. I'm about the people and I'm about being truth to the people. So obviously this past couple of years, there's so much shit flying around and reality's coming forward and truth coming out. It's hard for me to not say things on other topics. It just is, because I follow everything as well all the time. But that's a part of my ride that was triggered by becoming aware of what's really going on out here from me witnessing firsthand, right? Now, like I said all along, as soon as I accepted the truth about what I had witnessed, my brain goes, what else you been lying to us about, you sons of bitches? Right? So, for anybody confused on or frustrated with me when I talk about other topics, well, that's why. Because this one topic of these people, these hairy, huge frickin' beings that are very real and in our forest today, one thing about it is it's one of the easiest topics to deliver to your community to prove that we have been absolutely lied to. Right? And when you make that statement, which is true, then how do you not, on receiving that statement, how would you not go, really? What else have we been lied to about? Well, I don't care. We're not going to talk about that. Right? So you see how frustrating it can be for me to not really frickin' start going off on other truths all the time. Because everything's related. Everything's tangled up together. So just a quick mention, a friend of mine, known him for a long time since he was a kid. And worked for me, hunted with me, and he's a logger now. And he's taken a course. I forget the name of the course he's taken. Something to do with architectural drawings. And get this one. He came over yesterday because they also grow honey. They have honeybees, and they dropping some honey off here yesterday. And he's telling me how in every single course today in the school system, education system, there's a part of it, I texted him earlier to confirm what he called it, but I believe a part of this was called, was it social globalization or social global something? I'm sorry if I don't have it nailed down exactly what the two words were, and it's indoctrinating all of the dog shit they're hammering on us with today in society, on mainstream, in the school system. It's all geared up to promoting that and ensuring anybody in the education system right now gets that first. Holy shit! Here comes Adventure Dog. Hey, puppy. This is a very, very big, alarming game going on in the world. And go figure. The criminal leader of Canada is also a graduate of the WEF Young Leaders Program, or whatever the hell it was they put everybody through. And I think there's a list of something like 30 some odd people from around the globe who are in the lens today in positions of power who also graduated from those nasty ass courses. It's frustrating, right? Everything's getting frustrating, and I'm navigating this just like everybody else. And I'm trying to navigate through all this and hoping I do the right things all the time, right? I mean, but I care about everybody. I want my entire community and the whole world to be rocking this lifetime out and having fun. And I'm not sure sometimes how to go about trying to make a difference, you know? I want everybody to know all the truths that I come across, you know? Anyway, there you go. I'll tap into that a little more once I get a reply from my friend, a little more detail, and I'll share it with you guys later, all right? I'm going to. Because it has to be shared. It has to be pointed out. And I always knew this a long time ago, that they prey on the next generation to make the difference in their favor. That's what they do. And the sooner everybody becomes aware of that, then you can turn it around and make it better. Hopefully. There's my rant. Let's get into it. This is titled 2 Encounters, and today when I was at the hospital, I was sitting there trying to go through a whole pile of emails that I thought I may have lost. Because if you haven't been here too long, I lost my other phone where there was 20-something hundred emails in there that hadn't been read. And when I extract them out of my email, it marked them as read in my email box. Ugh. So I sat there going through a pile of emails and seeing if anything sounded familiar or not. If it didn't, I saved it. Because it makes me sick that those people might not get heard. So, excuse me, 2 encounters. Token helicopter. And the dog chewing on her bone down there. First off, thanks for the channel. I enjoy hearing all the other stories and how people reacted to their encounters. It makes me feel that my reaction is normal, if there is such a thing after this. My first encounter was in the deep Adirondack forest. My brother and I were on a guy's camping trip. We loaded my pickup with enough supplies to get us through the week, and off we went. We did not have a plan, so we just drove as deep into the forest as my 4x4 would take us and set up camp. We were miles from anyone else and had no issues the first night. However, on the second night, my brother shook me awake, asking, "Jay, did you effing hear that?" I lay silent for a few minutes, and then I hear a deep howl/scream like nothing I've ever heard before. I wasn't really scared, but more stunned. I knew whatever made that noise was big. So I loaded the shotgun I had in the tent with double-aught buckshot and lay there awake till the next morning. We packed up our shit and went home. I'm an avid hunter. From October through March, I'm hunting every chance I get, usually every day. In the off-season, I'm preparing for October. I've seen and heard every animal in the woods. Much like you, it doesn't bother me a bit to hike into the woods in the pitch black to get to my stand an hour before light. My love of the outdoors over the past 30 years has allowed me to see some crazy shit. My second encounter came on a coyote hunt in the Finger Lakes region of New York. 2 of my buddies and I were set up on a large cut field midwinter around 2 or 3 in the morning. Needless to say, it was very, very quiet. You could hear the snowfall. We set up and started calling. About 30 minutes into the hunt, while the call was off, a sound came from the opposite side of the field, 500 yards away. I say sound because the only way I can explain it is if you have ever seen the dinosaur shows, when a T-Rex screams, it was like that. Only more pissed off, like a war cry. It moved down the other side of the field very quickly, and then back to the spot it originated, never breaking out in the field from the tree line. It was so incredibly loud, angry, and from so far away I said, "What the F was that?" The other 2 didn't say a word. We grabbed our shit and left. 3 grown men with rifles, all well versed in the outdoors and in pretty good shape, decided to leave rather than find out what was on the other side of that field. I have mentioned it a couple of times since then. I have mentioned it a couple of times since then, and they will not talk about it. Like they don't want to remember it. I can't blame them. Such an odd human reaction. It's so common, odd to me. Sorry. I've told a few people about what happened when the topic comes up, and they just laugh it off like I'm joking for some reason. They can't wrap their heads around what I'm saying is true. That's all I have so far. Keep fighting the good fight and screw the haters. Jay Crettel. Hope I pronounced your last name correctly, Jay. Jay, if you're still here, and this took a long time to get your email, apologize, but it's nature of the beast here. But if you've learned anything else since then, please get it to me, all right? I'm all over it. It's funny with the T-Rex sounds, the T-Rex screams I have on TV. And everybody across the board refers to a T-Rex scream now. Meanwhile, not one modern human being has ever heard a T-Rex make a noise. For all we know, they cluck like a chicken. Right? It's amazing what we can all be conditioned to repeat as possible fact. All of us around the globe, everybody, I'm just using this as an easy, small example. Right? The majority of modern humans today, when describing a sound, could easily use what a T-Rex would sound like. Right? Isn't that kind of funny? When meanwhile, at the same time, not one modern human has ever heard a T-Rex make a sound, and for all we know, a T-Rex could cluck like a chicken. And that's fact. Right? The power. Right? The power of being able to get everyone to repeat after me, even though it's probably not true. But everybody can refer to that, as an example, that sound, as being from a T-Rex. Babble a day, aren't I? Next, thank you for the outlet. Steve, first I want to thank you for giving folks an outlet to tell their stories. I find them fascinating and insightful. I spend a lot of time in the woods hunting deer, elk, turkey, and coyotes in Washington and Oregon. And I'm very familiar with these animals and the sounds they make. With that being said, I never have had a face-to-face encounter with one of these beings, but I have had some interesting experiences. I've heard rock knocking in areas where no human would go because of the terrain. I've been between two groups of, well, I don't know what, that had the strangest howls. Almost canine-like, but not canine. Very deep tones. The first group started in above me at about 100 yards out. Then a few seconds later below me, I'm guessing 300 plus yards, came the same strange howl in response from another group. Then a few years later, while archery elk hunting, I was on my way back to camp after my morning hunt when I had the strangest incident. I was walking down a logging road back to camp with thick timber above me and below me. It was raining and I was not really hunting at this point, just booking into camp. I had the hood of my hunting coat up, which kept me from seeing too well with my peripheral vision. There's some new fir tree growth along the cut on the hill up alongside of me. These trees were 18 to 20 feet tall and very thick. I heard a loud crash from behind me and to the right. Even with the hood up, it was startling. And as I turned, one fir tree was violently shaking. Then it abruptly stopped. I stood there for only minutes just watching. No movement, no sound, no wind, no nothing. All three of these incidents took place within about 5 miles of each other, south of Mount St. Helens in Washington. My last bit of evidence was 2 years ago while rifle elk hunting near Mount Adam, also in Washington. Up until this point, I had only strange incidents, but then I came across a fresh set of barefoot tracks. They were very crisp. You could make out 5 toes, wide heel, the complete foot. And impressed into the hard earth, about 5/8 of an inch. The small plants were crushed flat. I could not make an impression like that. I could clearly make out a left and right foot with about a 4-foot stride. I didn't have my phone with me at the time, so no picture. But I took a couple of sticks to measure the prints, which measured 15¼ inches by 7½. I know these stories aren't as interesting as a lot of the stories other people have shared with you, but my reasoning for telling you these encounters are I know I won't be ridiculed or not taken seriously. I've told very few people about the tree shaking incident and the tracks I found, and each time I was laughed at by friends. I find it frustrating not to be able to share a discovery you made only to be branded a nut. I also feel very fortunate to have witnessed what I have. I know this will sound strange, but I almost feel as if these beings are preparing me to reveal themselves to me. And I don't know if I want that to happen. Anyway, thank you for letting people tell their stories in a place that doesn't exploit or ridicule. It has helped. It is helpful and encouraging. Kevin Wentz, Vancouver, Washington. Kevin, welcome aboard, my man. You are a brave, stand-up, honest man in your community and this community. There you go. Endo story on that end of that. Doesn't matter what happens out there, what people see. We don't compare shit to each other's as well, that was a good one, or that was a bad one. You know what I mean? We need every single voice heard. Every single human being's truth heard. That's what we need. That's what we've been getting. California Sierra Nevadas encounter. The Sierra Nevadas. Popular place, isn't it? Never been there. Don't even know what it looks like. Haven't a clue. I should look it up. Hey there, Steve. First off, I want to say thank you for doing all you're doing on this topic. It's nice to have such a credible professional person finally publicly speak truths in this topic. Appreciate the kind words. Okay, my name is Jade Bowl. That sounds a little familiar. May have read this, may not have. We're going to go in anyway. I was born and raised in Sierra Nevadas in a place called Shaver Lake, California, at about 6,000 feet elevation, just south of Yosemite. Living in high elevation mountains, it's a lifelong necessity to cut firewood to survive. In my mountain range, we have a prized pine wood that only grows above 8,000 feet called tamarack. I know tamarack well. So during the summer, a buddy and I would make our trips up the mountain to collect our firewood for the coming winter. Usually we'd go to a remote area called Sample Meadow. When we were finished for the day, we would grab a couple of beers and hike to a close-by creek to cool off and explore around before heading home. This afternoon in 2004, we walked to the other side of this ridge and found a small creek. We sat down leaning on a couple of trees and drank a couple of beers while cooling off. We heard what sounded like a person walking close by. We both looked at each other, then looked towards the sound. About 50 yards away was a Sasquatch, about 6 feet tall, walking toward us like it hadn't noticed we were there. I instantly was scared, but didn't feel threatened at that point. We both were just frozen looking at this thing. At about 35 yards away, it finally noticed us. It looked right at us, but didn't seem surprised or startled at all. Man, 35 yards is frickin' close. For some reason, my buddy and I both sat down, not taking our eyes off this thing. We then heard a whistle up above us. The creature looked up the hill, then back at us. Then a whistle from below us. This sounded pretty close. It looked up the hill, though again, and then back at us. We were both just sitting there, frozen pretty much, and in awe on what's happening. The one we're looking at made a clicking sound with his mouth and showed us his teeth, but it seemed in a playful, not a threatening way, like a kid. What's crazy is it looked downhill and took a few steps downhill as we heard footsteps start to approach from uphill, which was behind us. Like it was taking our attention off their movements on purpose. About 20 yards to our right, a huge 8.5 foot to 9 foot tall monster was walking straight downhill right across the front of us towards the smaller one. As it walked by, it looked down at us and made a deep, gruntled growl sound, like saying, "Don't effing move." It met up with the small one. The big boy whistled again. The one below whistled back, and they both headed downhill towards that one. Right as he walked away, the big boy looked back at us one more time and shook his head like what's up, as to saying, "You guys are good to go now." It was the most amazing experience I have ever had, but terrifying. Over the years in this area, I always felt like we were being watched, but never seen anything until this day. My buddy and I finally stood up, promptly started back to the truck. All we were saying was, oh my God, what the F? Let's go. Oh my God. On a ride home, we talked about the whole experience. I was saying how that was the one time I didn't have a gun with me when going on that walk in that area. Maybe that's a good thing. Might have been a whole different experience if I had. My buddy didn't want to tell anyone, so I respected his request until now writing you. I told my father, but no one else, and that's why I won't mention his name, but you can mention mine. Appreciate you and what you're doing. Thanks, Jade Bowl. This encounter is in the Sample Meadow area above Huntington Lake, California. There you go. How's that for a holy shit day of life? Your name sounds, the whole thing sounds familiar. I think I read it. Possibly. We've had a handful of people write in and say, the larger being looking at him and giving the nod of don't think about it or don't do it or you're good to go, whatever. So I may have it confused with other ones, but probably not. I hope if you're still here hanging out, I hope maybe possibly you shared this email with your buddy, all right? And we don't need him to email in, but it might help him cope a little better. Maybe. How's that for an incredible thing to witness, right? Here's another one. Quick note before I keep going. This is on topic in a way. Before I forget. So this time of year, we have a limited entry hunting lottery in the province of British Columbia. So you pay for a ticket in a way, and you put in for a draw in a whole pile of different areas across the province you might want to put in for a draw for a moose tag in an area, or a coastal elk tag in an area, or a mountain sheep, caribou, all sorts of stuff. And this time of year, the results are made public like a couple weeks ago. Excuse me. And every year I get people I haven't met before trying to get a hold of me to either get information from me or see if I would be interested in helping them on their hunt. Because a lot of these hunts are very rare and tough to get the tag, but very exciting for me to go on and help and video. I've done that a bunch of times in the past, especially with island elk. And I just had a friend, I've met him before, good guy. He has guided big game hunts in the north many times. But I guess he drew a tag for Toba Inlet for Roosevelt elk. And that is a remote, exciting hunt. And I guess he feels his partner is backing out and he wants someone to go with him that knows what's up. And we have a mutual good friend. It's my friend. He called me last night and asked me if I'd be interested in going with him. So I don't know all the details of the hunt yet. It's a tough place to get into it. You need a boat. And then you need to, I don't know if he's planning on doing a backpack hiking hunt or we're going to boat in a quad or bicycles or something. I don't know. So I got a bunch of details I got to confirm first. And it's for October 1st. And would I like to do that hunt? I've already said yes to helping a couple other people with their island elk hunt here on the island. But they're pretty basic and easy. But easy-ish. But the thought of going to new country for me is very exciting. And it's harsh and it's hard, which I love. But the significant part is Toba Inlet is where Albert Ostman was taken away by a large, hairy, man-like being. Remember that story? He was investigated, went upside and down the other, interviewed, and passed every single lie detector test ever put forth. And he was the guy who was scooped up in a sleeping bag, and all of his shit was grabbed and thrown over the back of this thing, scrunched up in the bottom of his sleeping bag and packed in the dark up and over mountain ranges, and then dumped in the ground in front of a family of these people. Anyway, that's where this hunt is. So, you know as well as I do, how exciting would that be for me to go on that remote hunt, the two of us, and bail into that inlet and up into those mountains and videotape everything. And who knows what's going to happen at nighttime. You never know, right? Anyway, thought I'd mention that before I forgot, because I forget a lot of stuff. Revised. Me and my 6-year-old's experience with the swamp squatch. Location removed. Hey Steve, I just found your channel today. I've been listening since about 7:30 this morning. I live in Orlando, Florida, where it is densely populated, but we do have forest areas and many, many nature trails that connect hundreds of miles of rivers down to Lake Okeechobee and eventually the Everglades, cutting through residential areas across the state. I've been walking this particular trail for the past 12 years in Orlando. It's believed to be an Indian burial ground that got partially dug up during the construction of a school. Story goes, 2 men died when a wall collapsed on them in a freak accident during construction. The workers said they heard what sounded like native calls. Then the wall seemed to be pushed down, allegedly. Whatever, right? Nobody believes that. But now that I have a 6-year-old son, he loves to take walks with me on that trail and fish out river bass that flow by. Well, he used to love it. The very first incident on that trail was with him, and he is very uneasy about going back since then. One day after work, at the bank, at that time, I picked him up around 4 p.m. and went for a walk on the trail. It's springtime, so it was not too hot. While I was in business attire, looking crazy walking down the trail. I always love to find trees that have been partially hollowed out by termites, but still standing along the trail. You can give these 20 to 30 foot tall trees a couple of dozen well-placed kicks and timber. Boom! The echo goes for miles in the flatlands of the Florida forest. No mountains, no hills, no incline. We filmed much of it on a Snapchat, so I got excited and knocked down every tree I could find, big or small. I even climbed a fallen tree from one of the hurricanes and screamed at the top of my lungs, "I'm the tree god!" The echo travels the forest like an empty building. We were about a quarter mile down the trail from the entrance bridge crossing the river that is about 20 feet across. We came across a tree that had a long 4-finger gash in it, ending about a foot above my head. I'm about 5'8", not too tall, but I found it very strange. I took a snap of it because the sap leaking out looked like blood. A few moments later, directly across the river from us, we hear a deep, loud, rumbling call that lasted about 5 seconds. Louder than anything I've ever heard. So my son slammed his hands over his ears, locking eyes with me and terrified look on his face. Holy shit, he had to plug his ears, that's loud. I scooped him up and hid him behind some brush, shushing him for about 3 seconds before I got pissed off and ran out down the trail as sneaky as possible, about 30 yards, scanning the brush for the asshole that has some type of machine or device or something. I screamed out, "What's up, punk? Come get you some, show yourself." Then a shiver went down my spine as I realized there is no bullhorn or speaker that can replicate the magnitude of that call or a sound from that creature. I ran back to my son still hiding but curious enough to try and replicate the sound, going, "Whoa!" And I said, "No, bro." And then from behind us on our side of the river, a similar call that sounded to be about a half a mile out. Still ridiculously loud, calling right back to the other creature. Not possible. I told my son to run as quietly as possible. Then we ran out of there. Nobody believes us. So, 1 year later, I took my brother-in-law out there about 2 o'clock in the morning during the COVID-19 lockdown to test out our new S&W 30-day special. We should have been totally alone. We traveled down the trail in the opposite direction, about a half a mile with just the moonlight. I said to him, "Dude, this is where me and Junior heard that sound a while back." No cars driving on the roads, no people around on the trail, or school due to the lockdown. It was so silent we could hear each other breathing. We let off a bang that echoed for 4 or 5 seconds so loudly the forest screamed back at us about 3/4 of a mile out with a short "oh." Not any local limpkin bird or fox, sounded like a pissed off howler monkey. My stomach turned and I whispered, "I told you, bro, I told you." He said, "What the F is that?" Bang! I let off another shot in the darkness. We got to speed walking back, trying not to trip on all the cypress root, and about 30 seconds into it, another call. Oh! Much closer, maybe half a mile out. And we get to jogging. Once the entrance bridge was in sight, shining in the moonlight, yet again we hear the "oh" right on our ass. And we start hauling ass out. We started hauling ass out of there, feeling like we just made it out in time. He was most definitely a believer then. You could feel these beings the same way you feel a demonic presence. It's like the air thickens around you and you breathe it in. A week later, I told the story to my neighbor and his 13-year-old, who both called bullshit on my stories. I said, "Okay, if you guys are not pussies, let's go right now while we're still on lockdown, and I bet you'll hear something." My son said, "Okay, yeah, I'll come too." He's 7 now, feeling more brave. So we jumped in the truck and went to the trail, eight minutes up the road. No guns, just a big machete to bang on the bridge and replicate a gunshot. We get there, and I can tell my son regrets it. And he says, "Do we mind if he just waits in the car?" At that moment, everyone got just a tad bit sketched out, but said, "Come on, man, we can't leave you here in the car while we venture off into the forest. It's too late. You're in for the long haul now." We all make our way over the bridge and walk down the back path. I went on with my brother-in-law. But a giant 4-inch banana spider blocked our way with his web, so we went down the regular path from the first incident. I took a quick smack on the metal bridge, so we passed it with a machete that pierced through the forest. Nothing, not a peep. So we all took turns trying to mimic a Bigfoot call, except my son, that just wanted to get out of there. Still nothing. So we walked further and further in the darkness of the haunted forest. We tried to be still and silent to listen, but got bored. After about half an hour, I started walking back. And out of nowhere, all the limpkins and cranes started chanting at the same time like something spooked them. Not us, obviously, because they had ignored us the whole half hour, and we all instinctively huddled up, ripped out of there, and sure enough, we hear the same old "oh" far out behind us. And my son started to whimper and tear up, not trying to let us see. I said, "It's okay, we're leaving right now." We all moved quick and silent back to the bridge and gave it a couple more bangs. We could hear a few more calls far away, enough to make my neighbors believers now. I have a lot of experience with the supernatural, and these creatures give me the same feeling as demons do. Except I don't feel like they will attack physically, and only communicate with us if they feel invaded or threatened. I think they are a remnant of the old world creatures Genesis 6. But that's a talk for another day. Thanks for reading. If you actually get a chance to read this, take care. P.S. Steve, if you have a minute, plug in Hunters Creek Middle School in the Orlando, Florida, and you can check out the river, and forest behind the school. You don't have to read that part out loud, but check out this random patch of forest this Bigfoot family lives in. Huh. There you go. I read it. I know I read that one. It's a long time ago, but I remember reading it because I remember what that kid went through, having to go back there again and tearing up. I don't know what else is going on around there since. There's another one. Oh, shit, what did I just do? Sorry. Hold on a second. This next one is titled Home Encounter. Hello, Steve. My name is Drew Johnson. I coach women's college basketball at a small university in Mississippi. First and foremost, just want to tell you how much my brothers and I enjoy your channel. You're giving a voice to those who are afraid to speak out about their experiences with these things, which has opened my eyes to a lot of glaring details about what these beings actually are. I've always firmly believed in the existence of Sasquatch, but I never realized the spiritual characteristics these things possessed until listening to accounts you have provided on your videos. This led me to share my younger brother's encounter, albeit it's probably the strangest and most unsettling encounter I've ever heard of. This encounter occurred while we were children growing up on the outskirts of the town of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, in an area of the state known as the Pine Belt. This area is known for its dense forests, made up primarily of pine trees. At this time, my brother was around 6 years old. He always claimed to feel uneasy in his room at night, like something was watching him. Because of this, he insisted that our cat sleep with him in his room because he felt safer with her in there. One night, he had a dream that a tall, hairy, bipedal creature appeared in his room. He said the thing was as tall as our ceiling, between 8 and 9 feet tall, and was covered from head to toe in long brown hair. He said it reminded him of Chewbacca from Star Wars. In his dream, the thing reached into the bottom of his bunk bed and picked him up. When it did this, the cat started losing its mind and began hissing and screeching at it. This apparently startled it, so it stuffed my brother under the mattress of the top bunk and disappeared. My brother thought it was a dream until he woke up under the mattress of the top bunk and saw our cat huddled in the corner of his room, still freaked out. This ordeal freaked my brother out so bad that he ceased sleeping in his room altogether, moved out, and started sleeping in our grandparents' house in the same room as them. He did this for years, as the idea of sleeping alone terrified him. Holy shit, that is nasty. What a dirty, filthy move. As a kid, he was more apt to talk about it. But as a now young adult, he wants nothing to do with those memories. However, the memory is still fresh in his mind, and every now and then we'll talk about it. But he always shudders at the thought that this actually happened. Unfortunately, there's no way this could have been a case of sleepwalking or a simple nightmare, as the bunk was much too high for a child his size to get to with a ladder. And there was elevated railing along the mattress, which would have made it next to impossible for him to simply crawl into the mattress. Whatever put them there would have had to have been tall enough to reach over the railing, lift up the mattress, and put him under it. I know this account is probably a little off the wall in comparison to other accounts you've been given, but my brother saw what he saw. I don't know how the thing got in his room, nor do I know where it went or how it got out of the house. These are things that I cannot begin to explain simply because they defy all logic. Really, the whole encounter defies all logic, but my brother is no liar. He's always been one of the most honest people I know. An encounter that traumatizes someone to the point of leaving their house altogether and causes them to not be able to sleep alone for years on end isn't something a person just lies about. This isn't something I want shared, as we are very private people, but I would like to personally know your thoughts and opinions on this so I can begin to at least make some sense of what happened to my brother. Thanks for providing an outlet for people who have experienced encounters with these things. I hope to hear from you soon. That's confusing parts. I mean, I'm not supposed to share the email? Well, you know what? Too late. I'm not going to share your name. What else is in here? Is there a location? Outskirts of Hattiesburg, that's not a bad thing. Alright, well, I'm either about to get in trouble or I'm not. But the second to last paragraph. This isn't something I want shared, as we are very private people, but I'd like to personally know your thoughts and opinions on this so I can begin to at least make some sense of what happened to my brother. Alright, well, one thing here that I will say is, when you share your experiences here or anywhere with all the people, no matter what the flavor of it, you will never know, and we will never know if this has happened before, or if it's happening today, if it's happening to somebody right now. You know what I mean? So there's a huge positive, good thing in sharing your experience, no matter what the flavor it is. So what are my thoughts on this? I don't know, man. I mean, obviously they could do that through a window reaching in. I mean, apparently their arms are probably longer than we are tall, right? But we have had so many people have shared about seeing something appear in their frickin' house, in the hallway, just going right through the door even, going through the wall. I wasn't there. But I'm hearing it enough. It's a strong pattern in your face of these people, these beings, whatever the F they are, showing up inside of a home. Bright lights, they show up in homes. They've showed up in my home. So, what are my thoughts on it? I think my obvious first thought is, what a dirty, filthy, slimy, sleazy move to do that to an innocent family and an innocent child, right? Why? Why did you do that? What was about to go down that night? Why? How many times have children been taken? Why? How many times have children been beckoned to from in the forest? Come on outside and play. Who the F is doing that, right? So many questions. I wonder if anything else has happened since then. I wonder how many, I'm wondering is how many people have possibly been physically moved in their bedroom as a child. And you're a little freaked out to share it today. Well, it's okay to share it. Share it with us. Add to the pattern. Allow your community to become aware. That's the most important thing, is to allow your community to become aware, right, of this absolute in-your-face truth. All right, I'm going to do one more. Then I got to get going. I got a lot I got to do. This is titled Sasquatch. Steve, first of all, I owe you and a whole lot of people an apology. I may have read this. I read that. You know what? I'm going to read it again. It's a short one. This is 4 years ago. Steve, first of all, I owe you and a whole lot of people an apology. I apologize for doubting you and the people who have risked speaking up. Please forgive me. It's all good. So, I was fly fishing last week along a medium-sized Vermont meadow-type gravel-bottom stream. The eastern foothills rise up from this stream, but the stream is not high gradient. Along the stream, as it winds and snakes its way to join a larger river, are fields. The stream banks are often soft, and it floods in high H2O. The floodplain has this bamboo-like growth known as Japanese knotweed. It's an invasive plant. This stuff can be exceptionally thick, and it is a foot or more over my head. And I'm 6 feet tall. It is so thick in places, I literally have to smash through this stuff along this stream. It forms a buffer along the bank of the river and can be 60 yards deep from the fields to the riverbank. Deer love it. They run trails through it. Fishing was poor as there was drought, but I had a few rises to a crane fly, dry fly I tied, but no hooked fish. It was getting late, and to my back was the blue western evening sky. I moved up the stream to get to a corner pool that always has a few rising rainbow trout in the evening when I felt someone's eyes on me. It was evening, but far from dark, Steve. Every serious hunter and fisherman knows exactly what I was feeling, as do animals. Oops, hold on a minute. Sorry, guys. Shit. Oh, I hate it when you just hit the screen and I lose my spot. Every serious hunter and fisherman knows exactly what I was feeling, as do animals, when you lock your eyes on them. Now, the bank this Japanese knotweed is growing on is 4 feet above the stream bed. There was no notch in the Japanese knotweed. I turned to look to the west, as I felt the eyes locked on me were from that direction. And in that notch, I saw what was clearly a young, mature male Sasquatch looking at me. I could see his head from the top of his shoulders up as clear as could be, towering above the Japanese knotweed. It was just a moment's glimpse. However, in that moment, I could see that this was a young, mature male. He wasn't frightening to me. He was actually healthy appearing. Dare I say, a handsome whatever. Just as fast as I saw him clearly against the blue sky, he was gone. I didn't hear a thing. But I can't hear any longer anyway, from all the boom of rifles and shotguns years ago when we didn't really take hearing loss seriously. Like the Sasquatch, I suppose. And oh, and by the way, had I had my rifle in hands, I would not have shot him. He was clearly an intelligent being, and not an animal at all. I did have the creeps after my sighting as it sunk into what I saw. He had the basic classic forehead, typical of the many accounts of Sasquatch, but certainly he was not ugly at all. At first I tried to convince myself I didn't see what I saw, but I did. I moved upstream from that spot to an area I thought I could get through to the field easily, but it wasn't easy. I was relieved when I got back to the truck. Again, I apologize to you and the people I most likely have insulted. Bobby Skaronsky, Sharon, Vermont. Bobby? Don't sweat it, my man. I used to scoff at people saying they saw a dog man for a long time, even though I was aware of these other hairy man-like beings running around out there. So it is what it is. It's just the way we've all been raised and all the dog shit we've had thrown into our heads. That's all. It's nothing. I don't believe too many people are intentionally trying to insult people, because they want to hurt them. They're just freaked out, scared, don't want to have to accept it or deal with it. But anyway, there you go. There's a handful of more. If there's a repeat, oh well, it was harmless. If it really made you angry, you can go get your ticket refunded at the door when you came in. Right? So I'm out of here. That's all that's new. It's what I'm doing. It's where I'm going. She still has these suckers in her store, and they are going everywhere. Literally everywhere around the planet. What else? Toba Inlet. Wouldn't that be something else if I were to go to Toba Inlet? I guess this is probably one of my only chances, really, unless I went out of my way to go there, but I don't really have that much of a solid excuse for me just to go there, because most of my spare time, when I get it, it seems to be geared up with me going to my own hunting trips where I know I can go get that meat, which I need for my freezer, and which I'm almost out now. Excuse me, and I can't stop thinking about hunting right now every day. It's flooding in. I think about where I'm going, where I'm going to go, how I'm going to hunt an area. I think about being there in the dark. I think about the loud noises that scare the shit out of me. In my tent last year, I'm going to the same place. I'm going by myself this time, absolutely by myself. Last year I started off with a partner and he left. I had to go home. But yeah, think about a lot leading up always. But then, and I can create, I believe I create anxiety for myself only because of what I've seen with my eyes and I know what's there. Also only because of what I've heard with my ears. But once I get in the forests where you would think it would get worse, I get calm and I get focused and I absolutely thoroughly enjoy every second of it and I wish it wouldn't end. How odd is that? Isn't that weird? You would think that I'd be absolutely anxious-ridden going into the forest at this stage of the game, but I'm not. I don't understand that. It doesn't really freak. I mean, I'm not losing sleep over not understanding, but it is an odd thing. You know what I mean? How odd is that to have had X amount of things happen to me, physically seeing these beings, and I still will drive for 2 days north in British Columbia by myself and go off into the darkness, into the forest, and I'll spend my whole day there. I'll lay on the ground and go to sleep for a nap in the afternoon. It doesn't make sense. In a way, it doesn't make sense, right? But it's just the way it goes. I'm really rambling, babbling today, aren't I? Anyway, here I go. Get your truth sent in. Get your truth sent here, anywhere. I don't give a shit where you send it. Just get it out. The more people speaking truth, the sooner the bullshit gets rubbed out, right? We can't let the bullshit win. Can't let the lies win. ShareMyStoryHowToHunt.com. The links for everything is in the video description below. All right? The video description below. And I will be back from the coast, hopefully tomorrow.